Hello everybody, Eternal Flame here, and welcome to What If Toji Fushiguro Survived and Turned Good, Episode 3, where today we're going to cover the entirety of the Goodwill Festival. However, before we even get into this part, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed and gotten us to 10k subscribers. This is really a massive goal for me, and I didn't actually think we were going to even get to this point, so I'm really thankful to everybody. But yeah, I'm not going to hold y'all for too long, so let's get straight into the timeline and the video. We now return to Yuji, Megumi, Hanami, and Toji, where Yuji and Megumi were having a sparring session with each other once again. This is when Hanami said something to Toji that did end up catching Toji a bit off guard, mainly because Hanami wasn't the type of person to actually start a conversation. Before Hanami then said, "You know, at first I'll admit, I was leaning closer to the higher-ups' opinion that you shouldn't be trusted, that you should be executed for all you caused. But I was waiting to see what you would do. Saving people is one thing, it's one act of kindness. But you've proved you want to help make others better, so for that, my opinion has been changed a bit." Toji would have blinked in surprise, not expecting that from Hanami, but he was okay with that. That bit of approval helped his confidence even more, as Toji then made a remark that was the best way he could help the kids in order to fix the world that old people like himself ended up creating. After all, Toji had come to accept the fact that Geto turning evil was partially his fault. Of course, he wasn't sure if it was fully his fault or not, but he was able to accept the fact that he took a big blame in that, as well as the death of Riko Amanai. However, that conversation was interrupted as Gojo walked through the door in order to bring Yuji, Megumi, and Toji back to Jujutsu High for the Goodwill Festival. This was when Gojo told Yuji about his idea to reunite them with his friends. However, Megumi and Toji gave a very unimpressed look before a sigh came out from the both of them, as Megumi told him he already explained to Nobara the entire situation and why Yuji had to fake his death. As Gojo then had a sad expression on his face, because he was actually really excited to do this little joke with Yuji ending up patting Gojo on the back and Yuji telling him, "Don't worry, next time they could do the joke," but that accidentally caused a glare to come from Megumi towards Yuji, mainly because that implied Yuji was going to end up faking his death again. With that happening, the four of them returned back to Jujutsu High for the Goodwill Festival. As it was then the two groups ended up discussing their plans. The Kyoto school was already planning to execute Itadori no matter what, so there was no change in the plan. Which that plan was to attempt to have all of the students at once execute Itadori for being the vessel of Sukuna. However, Jujutsu High also ends up having the same plan, however Megumi was able to vouch for Yuji even more. As Megumi then said, "If we were all to fight him together without curse energy, Itadori would still beat us. When me and him sparred, every single time, even after using curse energy to reinforce myself, I could never beat him once without using my Shikigami." That one ended up shocking all of them, especially Maki. It also made Maki curious to fight Yuji, but that was for later. Toji also could vouch for them, but he currently wasn't present and letting the group plan. So they ended up making the same plan, resulting in Yuji having to face off against Toto in their one-on-one matchup. As the battle starts between Yuji and Toto, and Yuji is just narrowly able to avoid a punch in the face from Toto, but he was able to tell from how much damage it did to that cursed spirit that if those punches hit him, it would do massive amounts of damage to him. However, that led Toto to asking Yuji the famous question, as Yuji watched this man change from saying that he was trying to kill him to them being best friends, and he was completely dumbfounded by the insanity that was Toto. But Yuji didn't have much time to think, as he had to immediately avoid a bullet from Mai Zenin, as Mai repeatedly ended up shooting Yuji, leading him towards Miwa, who he flipped over the usage of Simple Domain from Miwa. As you saw on one side, Kamo Noritoshi aiming his bow and arrow at Yuji, on the other side Mekamaru preparing his Mekamaru cannon, and then Mai preparing to shoot him, as Yuji realized in that moment everyone was trying to kill him. However, a clap could then be heard, as Yuji and Kamo had swapped places and Toto had told them to back off, which as a result of Toto telling them to back off, the students then left, which ended up with them getting matched up with other members of Tokyo High. So the two matchups we're going to focus on is Yuji versus Toto, as well as Megumi versus Kamo. So up first, let's go to Yuji versus Toto. As the battle started off with Toto attempting to land the first strike on Yuji, however Yuji through his hands was able to deflect Toto's strike, before Toto redirected and ended up going for Yuji's leg, but at that same time Yuji went for a palm strike on Toto's face. The two of them landing equal strikes on each other as the both of them were pushed back, until some curse energy then ended up hitting Toto right in the face, as a result of Yuji's divergent fist. Before Yuji used the branch to his advantage in order to swing himself at Toto, however instead of actually kicking Toto, he used it to launch himself into the air while Toto himself dodged, and as Toto was readjusting himself, Yuji landed a punch on the center of Toto's back, going right for his spine. Yuji was quite excellent. He was able to deflect several of Toto's blows with quite a massive amount of mastery. His raw power without curse energy exceeded that of Toto despite the fact that he had a smaller frame. His curse energy was incredibly difficult to read, and with the mixture of martial arts that he had mastered over such a small period of time, it made Yuji such a difficult opponent, almost like he was tailored towards fighting sorcerers. However, the part that angered Toto was the usage of the Divergent Fist. That wasn't how to use curse energy properly, which led to him shouting at the top of his lungs, "Wrong," before he began to explain to his friend what was so wrong, talking about the flaw of the Divergent Fist, and how it spawned from a bad habit of his curse energy because his curse energy lagged behind his physical blows. While Toji had done his best to make sure Yuji could actually learn how to utilize this disadvantage to his advantage, he never could properly teach Yuji how to actually control this curse energy, but that was mainly because of the fact that Toji himself didn't have curse energy. So in that moment, Yuji forced his curse energy to move even faster, and while he was able to somewhat remove the delay, it didn't fully remove it. However, it was enough of a removal of the delay that Toto was able to call Yuji a completely different person in comparison to what he was a moment ago. As he explained to Yuji how to think about his curse energy. While curse energy started from the belly, it moved to cover your entire body, covering your fists, your shoulders, your arms. However, while curse energy might come from the stomach, you do not think with your stomach. It's not through your stomach that you express your emotions, it's through your mind. However, everyone exists in the world, with our entire body, mind, and soul. While it was a basic view, most people ended up forgetting that view, viewing curse energy as something more mechanical than what it should be. And with Yuji fully understanding, the two were able to put their hands against each other, Toto declaring that he was no longer going to go easy on Yuji, before the two of them truly began their battle, not as enemies, not as rivals, but as brothers. Meanwhile, back to the teachers at the spectating area, a smirk could be seen forming on Toji's face, mainly because he knew exactly what the higher-ups were up to, but it ended up making Yuji stronger, which he was proud about, but then he focused back to Megumi. After all, he was curious to see how much Megumi had improved as well. As the battle between Megumi and Kamo started with a wave of arrows being shot out at Megumi, however Megumi was able to dodge them with relative ease, with one of his winged frogs catching one of the other arrows. As they flew back at him, Megumi was able to use the tonfa he brought with him to break the arrows apart. Before it was then, Kamo had increased his speed using Flowing Red Skill in an attempt to blitz Megumi, however Megumi was able to clash hands with him just on time. After all, now he was much more used to fighting an opponent that was physically stronger and faster than him in Yuji Itadori, so of course someone like Kamo would not be that much of an issue either. As the two of them began to exchange blows in terms of hand-to-hand combat, and Kamo had to admit he was actually impressed by the level of hand-to-hand skill that Megumi was showing. After all, Megumi was a Shikigami user, and in spite of that, he was able to be equal to him in terms of hand-to-hand combat through a mixture of skill as well as what they were used to fighting. However, while Kamo tried to relate with Megumi, tried to get Megumi on his side so they could plan for things in the future, Megumi rejected that entirely, deciding in that moment to declare that the two of them would just curse each other because he did not care about any of that. He was just going to follow his conscience and save people. As it was in that moment that Megumi activated Max Elephant, which confused Kamo, both on the fact that Megumi was capable of summoning something like that, and the fact that Megumi chose to summon that. After all, Max Elephant didn't seem to have that much speed, but he realized why quite fast, because Max Elephant ended up firing out a massive wave of water in order to launch Kamo right out from the building. As Megumi then tried to combo it with Nue in order to use the water to its advantage for Nue to shock Kamo. However, Kamo was able to use his blood to trap Nue as Megumi and Kamo were preparing to duel with each other in that moment until a massive tree erupted from the ground behind them. As Inumaki told the two of them to run, because now the Goodwill Festival was being attacked. As the anti-gojo barrier rose out from the ground and several attackers began to rise out of different parts of the forest. Up first was Hanami, one of the disaster curses. There was Juzo, the one who caused the barrier, Haruta, who was there to cause chaos, but there were also some add-ons brought in because of the existence of one Toji Fushiguro. A total of 4 grade 2 sorcerers that were spared thanks to Toji Fushiguro's efforts during the Night Parade of 100 Demons, where they should have died. However, they were transfigured and turned to humanoid monsters with large amounts of physical strength, thanks to the one named Mahito. People who joined willingly with Mahito in search of power in an attempt to surpass Satoru Gojo, as well as just a desire to do whatever they could, a desire to do what they so please. However, there was something even more dangerous than that, massively more dangerous, as in the center of the Goodwill Festival, they could see a tornado of roaches, as there was a hooded cursed spirit with a cockroach head. Kenjaku would release Kurorushi through cursed spirit manipulation early. While he was planning to have Kurorushi in the culling games, he knew just how important keeping Toji distracted was, so they wouldn't catch on to Mahito and what he was doing currently. This led to Toji needing to make a choice, making a choice on where he needed to go first. However, he made his choice incredibly fast, as he went to Hanami's direction, mainly because he needed someone. He needed Inumaki. As a moment before Inumaki could say his next word to Hanami, Hanami's left hand was sliced off, as Inumaki was picked up, with Toji telling him in that moment, "I'm going to need your curse technique for that," as he pointed over to Kurorushi. Now, Toji could have executed Hanami in that moment, but he had another reason why he didn't, and that reason was quite simple. He wanted to allow Hanami to be a way to grow for Megumi and Yuji when he eventually arrived. He wanted them both to grow off of Hanami, so for now he was just going to take Inumaki and leave. This then leads into Megumi and Maki battling against Hanami, and while they do better, it ends up with Megumi still being defeated nonetheless, and the moment that Megumi was about to cast his domain expansion on Hanami, Yuji and Toto ended up arriving. However, this time, Megumi is actually going to stay around with Yuji and Toto, instead making this a 3v1 rather than a 2v1. And what was even more annoying for Hanami was the fact that their hand wasn't healing, but that wouldn't be too much of an issue. They were still pretty sure they could kill all three of them even if they were to come at him together. And it wouldn't be long at all until Yuji had landed a black flash on Hanami. While Megumi did want to help Yuji out earlier, he wasn't allowed to by Toto, as the three of them began their battle against Hanami. This battle started out with Hanami launching out a massive amount of branches right at Yuji and Toto. However, Yuji and Toto were able to hop over the branches and make their way over to Hanami, landing 2 punches on Hanami's chest. However, at the same time, Megumi, through using Divine Totality, was able to land a slash on Hanami's back. While Megumi's punches were nowhere near as impressive as Yuji's or Toto's at the current moment, they were still able to damage them through this Shikigami. However, Yuji and Toto were both able to steadily damage Hanami. However, right when Toto, Yuji, and Divine Dog Totality were prepared to go for another strike, Hanami deactivated their technique, resulting in them standing on a giant bud, as the 3 of them were beginning to fall to the ground, with Divine Totality being unsummoned while at the same time Yuji and Toto were falling. However, before Hanami could launch out a counter-attack, Max Elephant ended up falling right on top of Hanami, slamming them into the ground, before being unsummoned once again as Yuji and Toto were able to land properly, while Megumi was currently in the air hanging on top of Nue. The moment after Max Elephant was unsummoned, Hanami began to get up, but before they could even fully get up, Toto and Yuji both went in for a strike on Hanami. However, Hanami was able to make a tree rise out in order to grab Toto's leg, which ended up catching Yuji off guard, resulting in Yuji and Hanami punching each other in the face. However, Toto was being launched away into a large amount of wood spikes, but that was when he clapped and swapped places with Hanami, resulting in Hanami getting stabbed by the wood spikes. Before a moment after, Toto explained his technique and used the binding vow of concealment in order to reveal his technique and amplify the power of his technique. But this was when Megumi got an idea, as he decided to use a Shikigami that he hadn't actually shown off so far during the entire Goodwill Festival, as he used Rabbit Escape in order to create a large storm of rabbits, though the purpose of this was not actually to serve as a distraction this time. No, it was quite a simple purpose, to give Toto so many things that they could swap with that they had complete area control. It was like they were in a storm of white with red eyes that was staring at Hanami from every single angle, and while they did try and destroy some of the rabbits, they couldn't destroy them fast enough, and before it was then they heard a clap. Yuji had now appeared behind them and kicked Hanami in the back before another clap could be heard, as Toto was now in front of them, kicking them in the face before another clap could be heard, which Hanami predicted was them going for behind. However, it was just a wave of rabbits this time, which they ended up going through, which then led into another clap. This time they were slashed in the side thanks to Divine Totality. The sound of clapping existed all across the battlefield, as it was impossible for Hanami to keep track of things, as they were hit in the chest, they were hit in the side, they were hit in the head. It was near impossible for them to keep track and even predict where they were going to be at all. And in order to add in even more confusion to this, Toto ended up clapping Hanami into spots and swapping Hanami with the rabbits as well, making them get hit, which made it even more impossible for them to catch up. However, it wouldn't be long until Yuji landed a black flash, before he was swapped into another black flash, and another, and he ended up landing a total of 6 black flashes consecutively. It wasn't long until Toto ended up getting Playful Cloud as well, And with the massive beating that was given to Hanami, it wouldn't be long until Hanami ended up dying. And while Hanami did want to use their domain expansion, it was impossible for them, because they couldn't heal their hand. As Hanami realized that was the purpose of why Toji had done that move, in order to remove Hanami's option of doing a domain expansion, because while Toji might not have been confident on if Megumi could have won a domain expansion clash with Hanami, they did not want to take that risk. However, they all ended up growing massively as a result of that, as Hanami ended up falling to the ground dead. It is then returned to Toji carrying Inumaki, as he ended up placing Inumaki right down next to Utahime. He wasn't fully sure if Inumaki's curse technique alone would actually be enough to vanquish Kurorushi. However, with Utahime there, he was pretty certain that Utahime's technique of buffing would be enough to help out, especially with Gakuganji also being there and able to help, because Gakuganji was not having to stall against an opponent. However, this was when the 4 transfigured sorcerers ended up arriving in order to face them, to try and hold them off, but Toji decided he would face them alone. Even though they were transfigured, even though they were monsters, Toji was actually able to recognize who they were, able to recognize each of them. The reason why that Toji was able to recognize them was because of his ability to view the soul. Even though their soul had changed shapes, they were still one and the same. However, Toji ended up giving all of them a disappointed look. Not because they weren't powerful, they were, but the reason he gave all of them a disappointed look was because he was able to recognize what they ended up doing. Because they were unsatisfied with who they were as people, they ended up taking a deal, taking a shortcut for power. And while the Jujutsu world was made to be a cruel one, they ended up throwing away their humanity. They ended up throwing away who they were in order to become something else. He didn't really know the reason why they did this, but in that moment, he decided he would just finish them off quickly and put all of them out of their misery. Because while they were all at the level of a grade 1 sorcerer currently, that was nothing to Toji, as Toji then told them that they shouldn't have thrown their lives away, before he then executed all 4 of them. Now normally he would have given them an ultimatum, whether to join their side or to die right here and now. However, he could tell that even if he himself didn't kill them, even if they went to the other side, they would have ended up dying thanks to Mahito's transfiguration. At the same time though, Utahime had finished her dance in order to amplify Inumaki, as Inumaki said die, and the massive wave of cockroaches as well as Kurorushi ended up dying to the massively amplified wave of cursed speech. However, Inumaki took quite a bit of damage from that as well. A moment after, the barrier was shattered. However, Gojo was happy to see that no one had actually needed him to interfere, and that all of his students were able to handle themselves fine. However, that'll be the end of this part of the what if Toji Fushiguro stayed alive, and how that affects Goodwill. Now I hope y'all enjoyed this what if. I'ma peace out and dip, see y'all later.